So Chris, thanks for joining me here. I would like to ask a few questions about movement and yoga. I know that you are a yoga instructor at Yoga Barn, also at Radiant Real Life. So I want to know something about how did you start with movement and how you are different from other teachers.
Thanks for having me. How did I start? I moved here 6 years ago to Bali, and I did a yoga teacher training in Ashtanga yoga. After that, I started experimenting. I've always felt like I needed to try out new things and become curious about what else is there behind the things that we're doing. There's always something. I find the cracks and things that I want to peel off and like, what's behind that? So I started doing that, and I feel like there's been an evolution in what I've been sharing and teaching for the past 6 years, which led me more outside of the realm of yoga into more movement and calisthenics and weightlifting. I started combining all of these to make something more accessible to people and for myself, and taking all these different elements and making something a little bit of my own creation, which I call the Fox method. And so there are these different parts that are making up this whole, reaching more people basically, making it more inclusive.
You were talking briefly about intelligence. What do you mean about that?
The intelligence is my little creation of a more sustainable way of practicing yin. I saw for many years, both teaching it and attending classes, that spending roughly 5 to 7 minutes in a shape, in a passive shape, I felt more disconnected when I came out of it than I did feel connected coming out of it. So my legs were shaking, or it was really hard to get out of it. And I was like, wait, is there different ways to make this more comfortable? Not just by shortening the amount of time we stay in there, but what if we move around a little bit, but slow, and like just moving our joints? And that comes, the intelligence came from both, from movement and from mobility, specifically joint mobility. And I started playing with a little bit of soft resistance in the shapes, that we push away from the shape and then we get deeper into it. And what I started seeing when people started practicing intelligence was that they felt more connected to themselves in their bodies. They left feeling more elated and like, oh my God, I went through some things and like I went deeper in my mind. It's like, well, that's the essence of it. It's a moment of getting lost within your body. And to realize that your mind is not a separate thing from your body. Your mind is your body is your mind. It's all connected. This is like, it's so fascinating to me. So the intelligence is the poetics of the body. It's basically, we go into places where I don't always know where we're going to go. I have a structure, some kind of archive in my mind of like, oh, these shapes and these poses and these sequences. But then I string them together on the spot, depending on who's in front of me. And that becomes this beautiful journey within, where it's like, where are we going? And to see that people move individually and independently, they can still look up and be inspired by others if they don't know what's going on. And if you don't know what's going on, you're in the great space, by the way. That's the point. And so I wanted to have more people come. Not just amount of people, but like, I wanted it to be inclusive. I wanted people who practice yoga a lot to enjoy it. I also wanted beginners to not get frightened by the idea of staying in this shape for too long. It doesn't feel good. What am I supposed to feel? And I'm not a teacher that tells you what to feel. I'm a teacher that asks you, what do you feel? Where do you want to go with this? What's happening? Like, these are all internal questions that we begin to excavate and start digging into. And all of a sudden we're in this space where, like, kind of like when we're walking along a path in the forest and then we step off the path and we just go deeper and deeper into the forest. Think of that as deeper the forest of your mind. All of a sudden you're completely lost in your thoughts, and the trees are speaking to you. You feel the leaves differently. It's like you find like a place within the forest where you're like, oh my God, I would never have found this if I didn't get lost. And that's the most beautiful place to be. So that's kind of what the intelligence is about, to get lost within your body. There are some technical things, of course, that we use with practical things of the body, and play with resistance and physical shapes, knowing what we need within the body, because that's my job. But also allow it to go deeper than that, deeper than just the body.
What's the things that make you the most excited at the moment?
The one thing that makes me most excited, it's a project that I've been wanting to do, and it's still just in like plans. But as soon as you mentioned that, I thought of it, and I have this idea for a retreat that I want to do in northern Scandinavia during the winter. So everyone goes to retreats during the, in paradise islands like Bali or Thailand, and it's like scorching hot. You're always sweating, mosquitoes and all of that. And it's beautiful. It's like you're on this beach place or in the jungle, and like these are great. I want to go back to the roots where I'm from and more of a pagan tradition. So more of the animism of how nature is something that we need to connect to more in more of a Norse kind of Viking way. So I want to go back to the roots of my heritage and create a retreat where we play with sound and movement, and we go out into nature. Hopefully we'll find a place where it's like the Northern Lights and sitting out and having story time around a fire, eating delicious food. Maybe not the way the Vikings ate. We can skip that, but having interesting people sharing about, through song, through music, through the history of something that is what I've seen become very potent now. There's a lot of shows about Vikings and medieval, movies and things like that. It's like on an uprising, and a lot of people, especially back in Scandinavia, are coming back to the culture pre-Christian era. I didn't feel connected to my own ancestry as a pagan until I came to Bali, because there is some kind of indigenous way of living here that is really beautiful.
Yes.
And the way that the Balinese have this culture of these ceremonies and prayers and the temples and wow, I'm like, we used to have that too. What happened? Like, I want to bring that back. So it's my own journey within my own culture that I'm so far away from now geographically, but that's what I'm most excited about, is to create that retreat.
I can really see the excitement, the enthusiasm when you're speaking. It's so beautiful. Your eyes really sparkle. You being in Bali for 6 years and teaching a different yoga studio, I'd like to know the experience that you had living here. How was different, like going from the pandemic to now?
It was very quiet, and obviously there was a lot of anxiety with both locals and other people, like what's going to happen to the world, where are we going? Right. And we're humans, so we're impatient. We want to know what is happening. Is there a lockdown? It's going to be open. Now they're opening the borders. No, we're closing them again. So it was very much like in the air for quite some time, and to see how certain people manage to live and seeing other people manage not to live that well, and there was always these ups and downs. But when everything kind of started happening and coming back again, tourism started flourishing. Yeah, thankfully I've lived here for so long that I've seen pre-pandemic Bali as well. It's so strange that we even have this term pre and post pandemic. It's such a strange situation that we realized that for 2 years we were like in this situation, and we always talk about it. We're probably going to talk about it for a long time still. Yeah. But it's like I'm very pleased and happy to see the island coming back to life. And personally, I find myself a guest here. Mm-hmm. This is not my home. This is someone else's home. People who actually live here and grew up here, and I'm a guest, and I'm a happy, very honored guest to be living here and doing what I do and what I love doing. And it's a very strange and magical lifestyle. I did not expect myself to live like this, and now I can't imagine living in any other way. I'm really grateful for being able to share something so beautiful and something that I'm so passionate about, and seeing a multitude of people from all over the world coming here.
I know that now this time in Bali is almost gonna be over for like a short period of time. You're gonna take the Fox method in tour. So you're gonna be to Europe, and how's it gonna look like?
Yeah, so finally I get to leave. Finally I get to leave this paradise island. I've been wanting to travel. This is the reason why I became a teacher, and it's even strange to call myself a yoga teacher. I would call myself a movement teacher, or in a stranger way, a movement alchemist. I like that word. Yes, I'm taking the Fox method on tour. I was intending on doing that in 2020, and now I'm taking it in 2023. And I'll be traveling around Europe to share my workshops and in different studios with the things that I love doing: intelligence, mobility therapy, movement medicine. I'm curious to see how this is received and how we can work with this in different environments. How I will be different in a different environment than just here in Bali. What would my experience be of traveling? What would my experience be of living somewhere else in a different city with a different culture? Even going back to my home country of Sweden to see where the people that I know will come to workshops, and how would that work? I definitely know that I won't be teaching in Swedish because I can't. I just don't know how to say the words that I say in English there. And I've, for some reason, started losing ways of learning, of keeping up my Swedish.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you.